If you can't find a to help, then you can call the number that Desley gave before. That is 0800 Cleanup. That is 0800 253 268. Please remember, though, that the call centre remains busy with thousands of calls a day, and there may be a delay in responding. So please try to access those details online if possible. The Auckland Emergency Management site is a good place to start. If you cannot physically help, but would like to provide financial support, you can, of course, donate to the Council's Emergency Relief Fund. Details are on the Our Auckland website, or you can email emergencyfund@aucklandcouncil.govt.nz. One last point, reiterating something I have said, please keep yourself safe. Stay away from flooded waters and streams. If parks or open spaces may have been contaminated with wastewater, then log it with water care. Keep clear of waste piles. Don't try to clear landslips yourself. Please report blocked roads to Auckland Transport or other slips to Auckland Council. And that's to Auckland Transport on 09 355 3553 or other slips to Auckland Council on 09 301 0101. Wear gloves and boots and don't take any unnecessary risks. If it's a big job, log it with the Council and report a problem on our website. And you can check in with local groups, including your local board Facebook group, to see if there's already a plan to tackle that job and see if you can help out. Now I hand back to Desley.
So in closing, a lot of work is underway, but there is still much to be done. Aucklanders, if you need help, please ask. If you can help, please tell us. Either way, our job at Council is to support and bolster those efforts already in place. And finally, our commitment to Auckland is to make sure that you are supported in your recovery. We will get through this, just like we have with other challenges of recent years. And again, I thank all who are part of that. Thank you. Now back to you, Rachel.
Kia ora. Thank you, Deputy Mayor and Oliver. So as you can see, a real focus for coming days and weeks is going to be around supporting communities that need us to do the activities that will help make their places, streets, homes safer and more welcoming again. Just one of the things Oliver mentioned was for non-urgent requests for support, people could go through the Student Volunteer Army, and just a reminder that that can be done via their website directly. You don't need to come through the council for that. That can be done online via their website. And so that therein draws today's update to a close, but we can stay for a little bit if people have got any questions they want to ask.
Yeah, so we're seeing more beaches be deemed safe enough to swim at. When do you think beaches will be safe enough to swim at generally following last week's flooding?
Our initial estimation around sort of return to safe conditions was probably sometime mid this week. But the advice to Aucklanders in regards to whether they should be out swimming at a particular beach location is to keep an eye on the Safe Swim website. That will give up-to-date information around the condition of their local beach area. Not all of our coastal areas are covered by the Safe Swim site, so in those instances, taking a precautionary approach, perhaps looking at what the nearest site closest to you is doing. But yeah, that's where we encourage Aucklanders to start.
Just got a question for the Deputy Mayor, if that's all right. Obviously today, if you don't mind just standing in front of the podium, obviously today is about the clean-up, but I just want to touch on the fix-up, which the Mayor was talking about in his video briefing this morning. Just how big a job ahead do we have in terms of, I suppose, preparing Auckland's infrastructure for the next time we have an event like this?
I think it's considerable, but look, I will cover, the Mayor will cover the big fix-up a bit later. I didn't see his video this morning as yet, sorry, but we'll come back to you on the big fix-up.
I just want to ask, what's it going to mean for the Council's budget and for rates for Aucklanders potentially?
We're right in the middle of our annual plan preparations now. We'll have a consultation document ready soon to go out with Aucklanders, and it is being tweaked as we speak to include work around around the recovery, as is this budget for this current year that's currently in place now.
So we will see rates rises?
I'm not saying you'll see rates rises, but there is obviously a lot of work to do in that space.
Should there be a Royal Commission of Inquiry instead?
There is an inquiry in place at the moment that has been commissioned, and I absolutely fully support that. I think there will be an inquiry from central government too, as well, my understanding is. But look, everyone's under the pump when it comes to the inquiry. These sort of things always have learnings, and it's important to have that inquiry.
And do we have an estimate of how many people have been displaced as of today, and what additional support is being given to some of the emergency housing places like hotels?
Yes, so we don't, I think I have covered this previously. It's difficult to give an absolute number of people displaced from homes. And the reason for that is that a number of people will self-manage. So, you know, they may have been displaced, but they will be staying with friends or whānau, or will have arranged through their combination of houses that are able to be used with some limitation or condition, and others that perhaps still need to be vacated temporarily while they do some of that clean-up work. So it's difficult to give an absolute number, but we've made really good progress working with people that have been coming in through our centres, needing that immediate temporary accommodation and finding alternative arrangements for them through, you know, various accommodation provision.
And is there any additional support for emergency housing?
Well, we're working closely with MSD and MB, and we also have Kāinga Ora working alongside our team to support their clients. As we work through this response, the immediate focus is always getting people into an immediate accommodation which is going to be safe and comfortable for them, and then there are longer term needs that will need to be met based on their circumstances, and those are the types of things that will be worked through by those central government agencies.
Obviously, there are so many insurance claims being processed and people facing months, if not longer, of uncertainty. I mean, what is your message to people who have no idea, basically, if they're going to be able to return to their homes?
Yeah, I think that's a very hard situation for those people to be in, and I guess I just want to start by saying, my thoughts are with people in that situation. The most important thing that they can do is get the best advice around, first speaking to their insurance companies, getting the advice from the technical experts in relation to the particular issues that their properties have, and then working on what needs to be done from there. We have heard from Emma Kumik from our building consents team that we are standing up support by the way of making sure the process for any consenting needs for those sorts of immediate emergency remedial works is done as quickly as possible and prioritising people in that situation.
You mentioned people reaching out for help. For people who are struggling mentally at the moment and they're not used to reaching out for help and they feel quite lost and alone, what advice do you have for those people?
Well, there is a range of, and again, a really important matter to it to really recognise is that people will be struggling in different ways. From the uncertainty around sort of accommodation through to just, I guess, the potential trauma of being involved directly in the flood events on Friday and then perhaps on Tuesday, Wednesday morning. So there are a range of support organisations that are out there that specialise in providing mental health and wellbeing support, and we would really encourage people to reach out to those services. And I think, like Oliver and our Deputy Mayor Desley just talked about, really important to connect in with communities. If you're struggling and you need help, do get in touch. People might not be attuned to asking for help. It might not be something that they usually have to do, but there are lots of people here that really want to help. We just, we don't want anyone feeling like they can't come forward. There is help there for people if they need it.
For the Deputy Mayor, how does it feel to be given the job of leading the big clean-up, and do you think you're the right person for the job?
The mayor in any way, that's my role, and I really want to help. It's been tough for a lot of people. In answer to your question, I think there's a free text to a trained counsellor available, 1737, I think that number is. And it's very traumatic. And the other thing that I'm very conscious of, especially in my community as well, is that there are people that are not used to asking for help. And so, I'm very, very pleased to be part of this. I want Auckland to recover. I want people to feel that they are supported. And I want to get this right.
And do you have any plans, any specific plans for helping the hospitality sector, which has been quite affected by the floods?
There's plans to look at many different sectors. The poor hospitality sector has been hit in so many different ways. If people can get out and about, I mean, I can just tell you of an event on Friday night in my own family. We're trying to find a booking and everything was full. So that's really nice to hear. But look, everyone's been hit. No one comes out of this flood really unscathed. And there are some communities more affected than others, I admit that. But we're all in this together. I know we can help and pull together. And if you can, in the hospitality situation, if you can afford to go out for dinner, now's a really good time to do that. Thank you.
Just quickly, just going back. Just waste piles on the side of the road, that was also mentioned earlier. We just passed several streets, you know, there's like flies all over them, but there's actually a lot of people sorting through that material and trying to take some of it. What's kind of the advice there?
Yes, and I have provided some previous advice on this, and our advice is that people should be avoiding doing that sort of recovery activity. Waste recovery is what we tend to call it, where people are looking to repurpose waste at curbs. The reason it's out there on the curb is because it has come into contact with floodwaters or is damaged in some way. And so, you know, really strong advice there is that that shouldn't be used or taken off the streets. What we are trying to do, though, as waste comes through our transfer stations, if there is the ability to repurpose or reuse that, then we will do that at those places, but we'll do it in a way that's safe and make sure that, you know, people are not putting themselves at risk.
Yeah, and also just for the people handling that as well and placing it out there, what is kind of the best, I guess, approach to that?
Yeah, so our advice to anyone that's removing flood-affected materials from their homes is ideally to be wearing PPE, so, you know, gloves, you know, obviously just protective footwear because you might be standing on nails and things like that and other things that could be dangerous, but, you know, definitely wearing gloves. And I think the most important thing, gloves, masks, but most importantly, when you finish that work, to really make sure that you are doing really good hand hygiene, washing yourself thoroughly. Yeah. Nice pause there, so I think we'll take that as the